the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the largest being Fatah. Ahmad Saadat has served as Secretary General of the PFLP since 2001. He was sentenced in December 2006 to 30 years in an Israeli prison. The PFLP currently considers both the Fatah-led government in the West Bank and the Hamas government in the Gaza Strip illegal because elections to the Palestinian National Authority have not been held since 2006. As of 2015, the PFLP boycotts participation in the PLO Executive Committee and the Palestinian National Council. The PFLP has generally taken a hard line on Palestinian national aspirations, opposing the more moderate stance of Fatah. It does not recognize the State of Israel. It opposes negotiations with the Israeli government and favors a one-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The military wing of the PFLP is called the Abu Ali Mustafa Brigades. The PFLP is well known for pioneering armed aircraft hijackings in the late 1960s and early 1970s. According to PFLP Politburo member and former aircraft hijacker Lila Khaled, the PFLP does not see suicide bombing as a form of resistance to occupation or as a strategic action or policy and no longer carries out such attacks. The PFLP has been designated a terrorist organization by the United States, Japan, Canada, Australia and the European Union. From its foundation, the PFLP sought both superpower and regional patrons, early on developing ties with the Soviet Union, the People's Republic of China, North Korea and, at various times, with regional powers such as Syria, South Yemen, Libya and Iraq, as well as with left-wing groups around the world, including the PKK, FARC and the Japanese Red Army. When that support diminished or stopped, in the late 1980s and 1990s, the PFLP sought new allies and developed contacts with Islamist groups linked to Iran. Despite the PFLP's strong adherence to secularism and anti-clericalism, the relationship between the PFLP and the Islamic Republic of Iran has fluctuated. It strengthened as a result of Hamas moving away from Iran due to differing positions on the Syrian civil war. Iran rewarded the PFLP for its pro-Assad stance with an increase in financial and military assistance. The PFLP has been accused by Israel of diverting European humanitarian aid from Palestinian NGOs to itself. The PFLP grew out of the Harakat al-Qawmiyin al-Arab, or Arab nationalist movement, founded in 1953 by George Habash, a Palestinian Christian, from Lida. In 1948, 19-year-old Habash, a medical student, went to his hometown of Lida during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War to help his family. While he was there, the Israel Defense Forces attacked the city and as a result, most of its civilian population was forced to leave. They marched for 3 days without food or water until they reached the Arab army's front lines. Habash finished his medical education in Lebanon at the American University in Beirut, graduating in 1951. In an interview with U.S. journalist John K. Cooley, Habash identified the Arab defeat by the Zionists as the Scientific Society of Israel as against our own backwardness in the Arab world. This called for the total rebuilding of Arab society into a 20th century society. The A-name was founded in this nationalist spirit. Quote, held the Guevara view of the revolutionary human being. Habash told Cooley, a new breed of man had to emerge among the Arabs as everywhere else. This meant applying everything in human power to the realization of a cause. The A-name formed underground branches in several Arab countries, including Libya, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, then still under British rule. It adopted secularism and socialist economic ideas, and pushed for armed struggle. In collaboration with the Palestinian Liberation Army, the A-name established Abdel al-Oda as a commando group in 1966. After the Six-Day War of June 1967, A-name merged in August with 2 other groups, Youth for Revenge and Ahmad Jibril Syrian-backed Palestine Liberation Front, to form the PFLP, with Habash as leader. By early 1968, the PFLP had trained between 1,000 and 3,000 guerrillas, It had the financial backing of Syria and was headquartered there, and one of its training camps was based in Salt, Jordan. In 1969, the PFLP declared itself a Marxist-Leninist organization, but it has remained faithful to Pan-Arabism, seeing the Palestinian struggle as part of a wider uprising against Western imperialism, which also aims to unite the Arab world by overthrowing reactionary regimes. It published a newspaper, Al-Hadaf, which was edited by Ghassan Kanafani. The PFLP gained notoriety in the late 1960s and early 1970s for a series of armed attacks and aircraft hijackings, including on non-Israeli targets. Their Abu Ali Mustafa brigades also claimed responsibility for several suicide attacks during the Al-Aqsa Intifada. See #armed attacks of the PFLP below. In 1967, Palestinian Popular Struggle Front broke away from the